Hello grade 5s and welcome to today's lesson. I'm Marco and today we're focusing on language, more specifically capital letters. Let's get started. So capital letters. Now what do we capitalize, right? And it's very important to understand this because it doesn't only affect, it will ultimately affect your writing, okay, in terms of how you answer questions as well as also your creative writing. So we always capitalize the months of the year, right? And that is January to December. So all of those letters, no matter where those words, no matter where they appear in the sentence, they always have a capital letter, right? Titles, right? And when we refer to titles, we refer to your Mr., Miss, Doctor, Mrs., and so on, and people's initials. Okay, so if it was Mr. R. Chabalala, that R would be obviously a capital. Why? Because it is an initial. The next one is days of the week, right? And days of the week, that is again Monday to obviously Sunday. And each of those will get necessarily a capital letter. Names of people and places. Very important, right? Capital letters are used when we write proper nouns, which are all of these aspects that I've just gone through. Now, let's look at people's names, right? So can you see we've got 3 different people, and again, each of these names have a capital letter. Why? Because they are people's names. We have places names such as Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Soweto, and again, we can see that they all have capital letters because they again they name things, right? They name places. Days of the week, like I've said, we have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And like I've said, again, days of the week, which are here. And they all get capital letters. They're all, again, proper nouns. And names of your months, such as April, May, and June. Remember, grade 5s, don't get confused. We are not just saying that only these months, only these days of the week, or only these places. We're referring to everything. So any place from South Africa to the United States of America to Russia to Maysdale and so on. All of these places, if there is a name of a place, it gets a capital letter. So where else do we use capital letters? Okay, and this is very important to note. So let's get a very important color and let's read. When we abbreviate, right, we shorten a word, right? We use abbreviations, right? So for example, Mr. becomes Mr. So M.R. Khumalo, like you see in the picture above. Okay, this also is a title, right? It is a Mr. It is telling us that obviously Mr. Khumalo is male, and we have given him the title as such. We also use capital letters for initials, right? So if it was Mr. M, right, Khumalo, it would then go in there, right? Because we are shortening the name. We call this abbreviation an acronym, right? Because we've shortened a name, right? An example of an acronym would be South African Airways, also known as SAA. So on the plane, you would see the word. You wouldn't see the word, you'd see the acronym SAA, and that would stand for South African Airways. Now, I want to teach you, and we are going to create an acronym to remind us when to use capitals, right? And we call this MINTS. Now, each aspect is known for something different, right? So when you need to know when to use capitals, you always look at MINTS. Now, the M in MINTS refers to months. Let me just write that. I'm going to need a bit more space. Refers to months, days, and holidays. Okay, so again, months, days, and holiday. Okay, again, Freedom Day. In terms of your important and significant holidays. Easter, right? Your Easter holiday. Then our next aspect is I, right? And I is always for the pronoun I, right? No matter where grade 5 says you write a sentence, anywhere it can be in the middle, towards the end. If you use the word I, right, it is always capitalized. Always, always, always capitalized. And that is why mints is so important, because it reminds us about that, right? Our next component is N, right? And N is, or it refers to, the names of people, places, and obviously etc. So names of people and places. Okay, and then we have our T, right? And our T refers to titles of books and movies. Okay, so titles of books and movies. So again, let's do our last one, and our last one is going to be S, right? And S is always focuses on your starts of your sentences. Okay, so can you see how we've broken? Remember an acronym, just like we had SAA, and that stands for South African Airways. We have MINT, right? And MINT helps us, grade 5s, to work on when to use and how to use your capital letters. So now what I want you to do with me is we're going to break up the acronym and we're going to read it together. Let's look at our slide now. So M, remember we have MINTs. Now M in MINTs stands for months, days, holidays, right? The I in MINTs is for the pronoun I. And that always reminds us, when we're using the word I, to always write it in a capital form. Okay? N, name of people, place, etc. And T is for titles of books and movies. Okay? And S, that is the start of your sentences. So what does that tell us for the S? That every sentence you start with, grade 5s, always starts with a capital letter. So now, activity time. I want us to rewrite the passage below, right? So you're going to rewrite the passage below. Mine's already written. And I want you to remember to use capital letters for all the proper nouns that you see, right? So again, I want us to we are going to do a little bit of something that's going to help us. And I want us to write M-I-N-T-S. And again, that stands for MINTs. Now we know that M refers to your months, days, and holidays. R refers to the pronoun I. N refers to the names of people, places, etc. T refers to the titles of books and movies. And S is your start of your sentences. So we're just going to keep that in hand, just to give us a bit of a help. Okay, just to help us as we go. So let's get a nice color, art, and then we can start. So we're going to read the passage, and then we are going to correct all the capital letters that obviously should be capitalized. So one Thursday morning, 4 chickens called Billy, Bob, Buster, and Blue went for a walk into Farmville. Suddenly, they spotted Mrs. Tumble and her family of mice creeping out of the bushes. They were on their way to a party with the rabbits who lived in the far-away forest. It had been Roger Rabbit's birthday in November, and they were finally going to celebrate. So now that we've read this little bit of a text, can you already see, grade 5s, where there should be capitals? So what we're going to do is we're going to read a sentence and identify the capital letters and so on. We're going to take this very, very slow, as it is our first activity. So let's do this together, right? So we're going to take a red color and let's read our first sentence. So we know our first sentence ends by a full stop. So let's read that sentence again together. One Thursday morning, 4 chickens called Billy, Bob, Buster, and Blue went for a walk into Farmville. Okay, so grade 5s, now that we've read our sentence, we are going to use months to help us. So what we're going to do is we're going to see, is there any M's? And remember, M stands for your days, your months, and your holidays. Then we're going to go I and work all the way to S. So remember, we're looking at our sentence now in our slide, and we're saying, okay, are there any months, days, or holidays? So if we read, I want us to underline, right, where we actually see any months, days, or holidays. So Thursday, right, falls under M, and there is no other months, days, or holidays. Okay, so we're going to change that to red. So we know that we've got M there, right? Then let's change I to yellow, and let's see, do we have any I's in this given sentence? One Thursday morning, 4 chickens called Billy, Bob, Buster, and Blue went for a walk. Okay, so we have no I's, so we can just write that there, just so we know in future, if we need to underline, we underline any I's in that color, right? Then we can keep N in this pretty purple color, and let's see if we have any names of people, places, or things. So one Thursday morning, 4 chickens called. Now, when we say something is called something, we're obviously going to name, right? So we can say Billy, Bob, Buster, and Blue, right? Went for a walk into Farmville. So again, we know that the names of things obviously are underlined in purple. Now, T, right? And T stands for, remember, titles of books and movies. Is, remember, we need to focus on, and we've named that orange. Is there any titles of movies and books? No, there isn't. Right. And again, our last one, and our last one can be in green, and that is S. Remember, S stands for sentence starter. And let's go back, and we can see that there is one there. Now, grade 5s, I want you to look carefully. Now we're going to skim technically we're going to skim, and by skimming we're going to scan our sentence to just see if we've left any other examples out that should be capitalized. Okay, and let's look at the sentence. One Thursday morning, 4 chickens called Billy, Bob, Buster, and Blue went for a walk into Farmville. Can you see how we left out Farmville? And why? Because remember, we always capitalize names of people, places, etc. And Farmville is a place. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a color and we are going to correct them. So remember, we would say 1, right? Thursday morning, 4 chickens called Billy, Bob, Buster, and Blue went for a walk into Farmville. Okay, can you see, grade 5s, how we've broken up the sentence? We've applied mints to that sentence to just make sure. You can use this when you edit your writing in terms of your creative writing. Maybe just have your little mints there with you, broken down, and then you can actually analyze and you can see what needs to be capitalized. So let's look at our next sentence. Remember, red for our M, and our M focuses on months, days, and holidays. So remember, let's find where our sentence ends, and our sentence ends there. So suddenly they spotted Mrs. Tumbo and her family of mice creeping out of the bushes. Okay, so there was no months, days, or holidays, right? So we move to our next one, and we see, are there any eyes? No, there are no eyes, right? Now again, we move to a next one, and we're looking for names of people and places. So suddenly they spotted, remember, Mrs. is a title, so it gets capitalized. Thumbo gets a capital because it's a name, and a family of mice were creeping out of the bushes. Okay, and T is titles of books and movies. There isn't any. And the last one is starts of sentences, which is S. So let's quickly correct that. We just had to underline that. So let's grab our pen. It is suddenly Mrs. Thumbo. And can you see how we've corrected it? So now what I want us to do, and what I want you to do at home, grade 5s, is you're going to continue this. Remember, find out where your sentence ends and apply mints to it. Remember, I've given you what mints stands for. We know that M stands for your months, days, and holidays. all the way down to your S, which stands for your sentence starter. So what do? We break up the sentences, we underline which components need to have a capital, and only after we've applied mints do we actually start correcting what should be capitalized and what should not. Thank you so much for joining us, for joining me for this lesson. I'm Marco. Till next time, cheers for now.